This episode of Nuff Said is brought to you by Tweaked Audio. To get awesome headphones, go to tweakedaudio.com and use the coupon code Southgate to get 30% off, free shipping, and a lifetime warranty. Or you can get there through the link on our website, southgatemediagroup.com.
Recording has started. Hello and welcome once again to Superconnectivity. I'm your host, Charlie, the Professor Esser, and with me, as always, is the bashful blue-eyed bomber of the Burger Pits,
Phil, Filmy, and Perich.
Welcome, Philip. Welcome once again to Superconnectivity. And welcome all you sweet connectors out there, super connectors, who listen to this show on some kind of a regular basis, I imagine. Who knows? Let's get out of the gate here. Let's talk about what is called Project Luminous, which was a super secret Disney project that has now been revealed to be essentially the prequels for the Star Wars universe. Have you heard about this, Philip?
I heard they're doing this stuff. I really didn't hear many details, so enlighten me, Charlie. Also.
So apparently they're going back in time like 400 years.
Oh, is this the thing with Yoda?
Yeah, with young redheaded Yoda, you know. Hey, there you go, Lilith. Yoda's a ginger. Yeah, so we're going to get a spry, mere 400-year-old Yoda at the peak of his charisma. And he is apparently going to be kind of our point of view character in this. It's interesting to me because obviously you go back 400 years, and this is supposed to be at the height of the Republic. But this is also going to be obviously a story of the Republic's battles and wars, because we see a lot of Jedi Knights with a lot of different lightsabers. And, I get the feeling we're going to start seeing in this story the inherent corruption of the Republic. So, I do feel, this has been my feeling after watching the Rise of Skywalker and and to another extent the Mandalorian, the idea that the Force was out of balance wasn't because of the Sith. It was because the Jedi essentially dammed the river. The Force flows through all things, but to flow, it must be natural. And I get the feeling one of the things we're going to be looking at in this story is about how the Jedi Order, as an organization, came to both feel the Force, to feel its ebb and flow and move with it, and then started to direct the Force and control the Force and to make the Force arguably for the prosperity of the Republic. But it becomes this issue like when you dam a river. You dam a river, you build the Hoover Dam, you build the Grand Coulee Dam, you build the Suez Dam, Enwat Dam in Egypt. Once you dam a river, yes, you're going to get all this hydroelectric power. You can control where the water goes, but by disrupting the flow, there is a downstream consequence. Mm-hmm. And one of the things I was thinking about this is we do know that there are characters that have an immunity to Jedi mind tricks. Jabba the Hutt, and we can assume it is a genetic trait to the Hutts, that the Hutts are immune to Jedi mind tricks, and Watu's people are immune to Jedi mind tricks. And what does that mean? It means that these are highly force-sensitive beings, but for whatever reason, they see that they can sense that manipulation coming. And I think about this idea because of course these beings that can resist the Jedi's mind tricks, they do have one thing in common, which is that they seem to be worse off under Jedi rule. That there are people that are kind of in the offskirts, kind of running shady operations because the Jedi have dammed the flow of the Force. And the Force flows onto their palaces of Coruscant and where the Republic wants it. But if you're not one of these groups that got to be part of the Jedi Order and the Grand Republic, then maybe the Force isn't flowing to your planet as much as it should. Or as it naturally would, because now all this energy that the Jedi are utilizing has to be directed towards their end for the good of the Republic.
And it's like, I mean, the whole prophecy was like Anakin Skywalker was supposed to bring balance to the Force. What if the Force being out of balance is what kind of like swayed him, like, or even like driven him mad or something?
Well, no, the idea is, see, when you say Anakin will bring balance to the Force.
Yeah, I know what you're saying. It was too weighed heavily on the Jedi side, so it's like,
no, it's not. It's not about being weighed. It's sort of like 42, and you say, "Oh, that's the answer to life, the universe, and everything." What does it mean? Well, did you ever think to ask what the question was? When you say Anakin will bring balance to the Force, the question you had to ask wasn't how will he bring balance to the Force, but why is the Force out of balance? And to say, oh, it's because Sith exist, well, that can't possibly be the case because there's only 2 Sith.
Yeah.
And there's 100 Jedi. So if something's throwing the universe out of balance, maybe it's not the Sith, maybe it's the Jedi.
Yeah.
And in both cases, it's not that it's the Sith and it's not that it's the Jedi. It's that someone is trying to manipulate and control the Force. The energy that flows through all things, that gives life to all things. There are that some group of beings has decided for either their own good or for the good of the Republic or whatever, they would control the Force. They would hold the Force hostage, manipulate the Force, bring the Force to their will. And in doing so, you damage things. Even if you think you're doing good for yourself and your people, you're damaging other people, which is why people don't like Jedi.
Or could it even be like magic in the Marvel universe? You know, like everything has a cost. So it's like, yeah, maybe you pick something up with the Force, or, you know, these aren't the droids you're looking for, and then something else happens in the universe as a result of you using the Force over here.
I mean, that's essentially what it comes down to.
Yeah.
By disrupting the flow of the Force, you disrupt the Force going where it needs to go, where it naturally needs to go.
Yeah.
You start pushing it into a certain direction. And once you start pushing, in this sense, what we might get in this Grand Republic is how the Sith emerged from the Jedi. Because the villains in this aren't the Sith. So one could maybe argue this predates the Sith. And if it predates the Sith, it opens up this question of, well, then where did the Sith come from? And the logical answer is, well, they must have come from the Jedi. If the Sith are just Jedi who like, you know, and maybe that's where you get this idea of a light and a dark side. Because maybe at the start of it, there is no light or dark side. There's just the Force. And it's about how we manipulate it. Then suddenly we're going to start putting value judgments on how this Force is being used. And we've seen, again, we have these new villains in it called the Nile. And the Nile, you know, they kind of Mad Maxy space pirates. They've all got helmets on. Which, again, that use of the helmet, which I find so fascinating, especially when we think about the idea of Force manipulation and of mind control by the Jedi. And how the use of a helmet might prevent that, might protect against that.
I mean, you know what's interesting to me? I mean, it's just seems so weird, except for like episodes 7, 8, and 9. You know, the movies with Rey and, you know, and Finn and everyone in it. It seems like everything else since that original trilogy have been prequels. I mean, you had episode 1, 2, and 3. You had Solo. Even the Mandalorian takes place between 6 and 7, and now Yoda. You're jumping back even further. They just keep going. It seems like they just keep hopping backwards.
Well, because, I mean, arguably the end of the Skywalker saga, the rise of the Skywalker, is when you bring the balance to the Force. Once everything has been destroyed, it's the end of history for this galaxy.
Yeah, but
because now things can go back to the way they're meant to be, with a proper flow of the Force to all people as needed.
I just thought they were going to do a different story other than the Skywalker thing going forward, And two, I mean, does every Star Wars story have? I mean, you could get little things here and there, but does every Star Wars story have to like have a major thing going on with the Force? Because I mean, Solo, you didn't get a lot of Force in that.
No, you didn't, because the Force isn't in a lot of people's lives.
Yeah, no.
Because the Jedi are manipulating the Force, because the Sith are manipulating the Force. In fact, one could argue that when the Force just becomes this handful of users, Palpatine and Vader, it's no longer being held back. And so maybe one of the reasons that the Empire was able to rule for so long is because for many of the people in the universe, for the Hutts and for Watu's people and for all these, and maybe even for the Mandalorians, suddenly with the flow of the Force, life got more into balance again. And it's this urge of people to try and control that magic, control that Force, that puts the universe into disarray.
I just, it just hit me when we were talking this. What would be interesting is like if they want to do a prequel movie, do a prequel of while Palpatine's building the Empire and stuff. You get all these Sith Lords just like fighting it out amongst themselves, almost like a big intergalactic gang war.
Well, I think that's what we're going to get.
Nice.
In this High Republic strike, because I think what the High Republic is going to be, it's going to be about that birth of the Sith. It's going to be about this schism between the Jedi and the Sith.
Oh, that's what I wanted. And Palpatine just said Vader to like smack people around, and
no, because this will be before Vader and Palpatine. This is going to be with Darth. What's his name? Darth Plagueis.
Oh, Plagueis.
Darth. Yeah, this is like 400 years.
Oh, yeah, but I'm saying I want one. Right after Episode 3, where Vader and Palpatine are building the machine, and everyone's fighting it out amongst themselves.
Oh, well, that's kind of Rebels.
Okay. Yeah, I haven't really watched Rebels. Okay.
Yeah, there's a lot of stuff out there about the rise of the Empire and the rise and the creation of the rebellion. It's an interesting question how they're going to approach it. We don't know yet. We know we get a young Yoda, and we get the feeling that Yoda's supposed to be this point of view character. And I get the feeling that what we're going to see is how, when we first meet both Yoda and Obi-Wan, they've both given up the Jedi Order to an extent. They've both adopted a life in balance with the Force as a hermit. Now, Luke still has these dreams of grandeur, but there's a part of me that thinks that Yoda never really did.
No, I mean,
he didn't want Luke running off to go fight everyone. He wanted to stay, train, learn, meditate. And I think that this is going to be possibly one of the things they might explore in this idea is who Yoda's people are and who the Tridactyls are. Because I get the feeling the Tridactyls, as we see with Baby Yoda, are a highly Force-sensitive natural race.
And do you think we're going to see, I mean, I don't know if they hinted around at this, but do you think Yoda's like a pacifist?
Well, probably.
Yeah.
Because I think the Tridactyls are probably pacifists. I think that what you're going to see is this idea that the Tridactyls, because the Force flowed through them so easily, that's how they evolved and that's how they grew as a species. And I think that the idea of the Jedi Order kind of comes from the Tridactyls as these mystical, almost like Fae in that universe, but then these very peaceful Tridactyls who lived in harmony with their world get brought into these people who want to learn their secrets. And so they show them their secrets, but then that gets twisted into the Jedi, And I get the feeling that there is going to be this idea of how what is meant to be a path of spirituality within the Force gets corrupted by those who seek to organize it into not a philosophy of communion, but a order of control. Mm-hmm. And I think that it's your basic, problems with organized religion kind of question. Okay, you can have a beautiful philosophy, but then as soon as someone puts on a funny hat and says, "Now listen, this is what you're supposed to be doing. If you don't do it the way I tell you to do it, We're going to cut your head off.
Oh, geez.
Then things get crazy.
Okay, here's the big question. Do you think this this Yoda thing, this Project Luminous, has been in the works for a while, or were they just like, hey, we need something like this Baby Yoda. Hey, how about Yoda, original Yoda's origin story? Okay.
Well, I do think Project Luminous has been around for a while. I think that there has been a lot of development, although there are a lot of people who say that that they're trying to figure out what sticks in the Star Wars universe.
Yes.
And so apparently with Project Luminous, there's a lot of different angles, a lot of different stories. Basically, it's an entire big canvas universe that they're going to put out there and see what people like. And whatever people like, that's what they're going to do more of. But that I don't know if it has a through line yet. But I would imagine that the through line would have to be looking at how the Force and the Jedi, and thereby the Sith, evolved out of this High Republic. Yeah. What was the cost of building the Republic? Because, again, we know the Republic's in disarray when we come to it in Episode 1.
Oh, yeah.
We know the Republic's in disarray. And so how did it get there? If this is supposed to be this great noble institution led by these, elite warrior heroes of the Jedi, how did it go so horribly wrong? And the answer is because they were never elite warrior heroes. They were always petty and venial and the idea that maybe the reason why Yoda rises so high, and maybe the reason why the Jedi pull away from being that engaging force in the Republic is because at the end Yoda was like, this is not the way. Mm-hmm. That the way can't be us going down there, laser swords ablazing, cutting people's heads off left and right, because that's not the way of the Force. Mm-hmm. The way of the Force is to be at peace, to be flowing with the Force, to hear the Force, to feel the Force, to follow the Force where it leads you. But that's a theory. I don't know if they're going to hop on it. Yeah. But, I'm excited for it. I'm really excited for it. I am actually very excited for all of the new things that Disney's going to do with Star Wars. Oh, yeah? I'm very into The Mandalorian, obviously. And I really want to write my blog post on what Star Wars was about, from my perspective. Yes. Because I think it's a good story to tell. I'm going to try and work on it as soon as I have a little more free time.
I was going to say, do it up. I'll post it.
Yes, I know. Meanwhile, over at Disney, we did have the big change going on with...
the two Bobs.
Yeah, the two Bobs. Chapek and Bob Iger. It's Bob Iger, right? Yes, I believe it's Bob Iger. Bob Iger is stepping away from the president and chairman role. He's just moving into that chairman role for right now. And, Grace Randolph had a good discussion of it, which was that, basically... that Bob Chapek is going to be the Roy to Bob Iger's Walt. That what Bob Iger wants is to be creative and thinking of great ideas and letting his mind run free.
Yeah, he wants to do the development side, I heard. Yeah, instead of like the day-to-day business.
And then Chapek's the guy who's going to have to figure out how to pay for it all.
Exactly.
So I think that could work for them. I think it's worked so far,
Iger, it's like go out a winner. Under his reign, they brought in Star Wars and Marvel, and they started Disney Plus.
Yeah, but I think there's still more he wants to do, And I think from his perspective, he doesn't want to do the business anymore. He just wants to do the fun stuff, And who doesn't, Yeah. And
he's like
now Feige, by contrast, they put him in charge. Is he in charge of Marvel Comics now?
Feige, I think Feige's overall in charge of everything Marvel.
Yeah, so he's in charge of all of Marvel now, which is kind of good, but then he also has to worry about budgets and stuff. So, but honestly, I trust Feige to lead Marvel into the next universe. Although right now, with all of its weird continuity stuff, who knows?
I don't know if it's like like people like, you know, are in charge of the TV shows or the comics or whatever, but I think, what is it? Probably Feige has final say over everything.
Yeah, and I think that's what it is, and which I think is meant to get it to us to that much more integrated TV, movie, comic book universe, you know.
And I think DC on the other side of the spectrum proves this point that you need one person at the helm overseeing, you know, the whole thing.
Well, you need not just one person at the helm; you need someone who's good at it.
Yes,
you know it's real easy to have someone be in charge. It's real hard to get someone good in charge.
Well, that's the thing. In DC, I don't think there's one person in charge over there. It's just like it's ruled by committee.
Yeah, and but to be fair, if you don't have one person who's proven themselves to be the person who can run the show, and that's the thing, because that's the issue. Is like, you know, Feige didn't just waltz into this job. They didn't just anoint Feige on day one.
Oh, no.
You know, no. It's like after a very long time of proving and proving and proving.
10 years MCU,
now,
yeah.
Yeah, now he's running the show because he has proven himself. And I think that's the problem with DC is no one has proven themselves yet.
No.
And I think, you know, that's the problem because, you know, I think they've had very talented people who probably could have been their Feige, but because no one wants to let anyone be the Feige, or everyone wants to be the Feige themselves, no one gets to be the Feige.
They're too fragmented. They're like, hey, you go do this movie. Hey, you go do this movie. Mm-hmm. You know, again, they need a Feige. They should have, who had the most successful movie? They should have been like Patty Jenkins. Here, oversee the whole thing.
Well, I mean, but it's, you know, again, no, I don't think that would have been the right answer either. Because Patty Jenkins didn't get to be Patty Jenkins. First off, Patty Jenkins is not the producer, she's the director.
True.
And it's like Feige never produced anything. Feige never directed anything.
Yeah.
If you're going by that route, Jon Favreau would be in charge of it. And Jon Favreau, for what it's worth, is still very much a part of the Marvel Universe.
And again, it's like, you know, Feige proved himself over, 10, 11 years? So it's like, they haven't had anything last over there in the movies for 10 years. I mean, what's the last thing that lasted 10 years? That Christopher Nolan's Batman trilogy, and then after the third one, he's like, I'm done.
Yeah, and that didn't last 10 years. That was like maybe 5 years at most.
3 movies?
3 movies, yeah. It doesn't take long to do 3 movies.
Oh, I mean, I was thinking the release dates, you know, by the time they come out.
Yeah, but it wasn't 10 years between the first and the third.
Oh, yeah, true. It wasn't even 10. But I mean...
Yeah, exactly. That's my point. It's like at most it was like 5 years, probably less than that. You know, because I think they came out pretty much one after another.
I mean, I think there was at least 2 or 3 years in between. Because I know Batman Begins came out in 2005. So let's see when the Dark Knight Rises come out. I mean, I agree with you. It wasn't a full 10 years, but I think it was more than 5. Okay, Dark Knight Rises came out in 2012, so it was like 7 years.
No. Okay.
Close,
but still, it's not 10, and nothing grew from it. That's the thing.
That's the closest they got. That's what I'm saying.
But then again, it was a situation where there was nowhere to go with it.
Yeah.
You know, because he said, "Oh, I want to tell." It's sort of like the Joker movie. I want to tell a self-contained Joker movie. Well, okay, that does us no good to build the brand. It's a great movie. I mean, Joker, I think, is up there with The Dark Knight, where it's, these are really good movies.
Yeah.
But where do we go from there? What do you do once you have a great movie that you can't do anything with it? And, you know, I think this is many ways, you know, it's like Avatar, you know, which is in its own way kind of like Titanic, which is like, it's arguably a great movie, made a lot of money, but it's not like you can do a Titanic 2.
Mm-hmm.
And while you probably could have done an Avatar 2 at some point, I mean, I just don't know if there's really a reason. I don't know if there's a reason to tell an Avatar 2. That's the thing. When you have a character like Iron Man, there's always a reason to tell another Iron Man story. Because Iron Man exists in a real world with real consequences and real changes.
But once again, it's like if you don't have a Feige, you know, over at DC, or like you're even talking Avatar, some of these suits are just like, oh, hey, this thing made $1 billion. We need to make another one, you know, whether the story calls for it or not.
Well, yeah, but, you know, but even then, you can't make a movie without a script.
Oh, yeah, no.
You can greenlight a movie without a script, but you still got to get to having a script. And if you never get to having a story to tell, and to be fair, if there's a story to tell, it'll show up, because it's not like there is actually, I guess kind of one of your biggest problems over at DC is I think they maybe, they have great villains, but what are their motivations?
Yeah.
When you look at a character like Thanos, his motivation towards the Infinity Stones, it is something that gives you a nice big arc.
Yeah.
And it's also an arc that can have an end and a resolution. You compare that to a character like Darkseid, where it is literally just about invading and conquering. Well, I don't really know what Darkseid's motivation is.
But once again, too, in the movies, they didn't even get the Darkseid. I mean, the Justice League was supposed to start a thing where you were going to get the Darkseid eventually, and that
we got the hints of it. We got Steppenwolf, and
and I heard before they cut and edited that movie originally in the Zack Snyder cut, they were supposed to mention Darkseid more, and I don't know if there was going to be an end credit scene or something.
Yeah, but again, within that whole concept, what is Darkseid's motivation? Can you tell me what Darkseid's motivation is?
Again, yeah, he's a conqueror. But again, I mean, look at it this way. In the comics, what's Thanos' motivation? He loves death. In the movies, they gave him a whole different motivation.
Well, yeah, and that's fair. And if someone wanted to create an interesting motivation for Darkseid, go ahead,
Yeah.
And to be fair, and again, this is the other aspect of it where Marvel is probably did something smart, is they didn't commit themselves to who Thanos was going to be.
Was that part of the DC movie problem too? Is who's the most popular movie villain? I mean, for the last 10 years at least, the Joker.
Lex Luthor. Oh, okay.
No, the last 10 years, the Joker.
Really though? Is he? Or did he have
what? Hey, who?
He had one really good role.
Yeah, but again, well,
Cesar Romero had more than one really good role.
Yeah,
that's what I'm saying.
Well, no, I'm just saying. I mean, Heath Ledger won, and then Joaquin Phoenix won for the same character.
Okay, yeah, and poor Jared Leto.
But I know. But I'm just saying, is that the problem though? They're most, you're saying villains need motivation.
But see, you're looking at the character.
Yeah, no.
In both those cases, that he calls himself the Joker.
Yeah.
For example, if you had a truly sociopathic Penguin.
But my point is, it's is that what's hurting DC's movies? Is like you're saying Thanos has a motivation and all this. Is what hurting them is that the Joker doesn't have a motivation and people just write it off. They're like, oh, well, he's crazy. He's so insane. He's crazy. He doesn't need a motivation.
Well, but the thing is everyone needs a motivation.
Yeah.
And here's the thing. You could have told, in fact, there is an entire argument you can make that really that Joker movie was really a Penguin movie.
Yeah.
You have raised by his mother's a little crazy.
And at least that one he almost...
Illusions that he's related to wealth,
And I mean, at least in that one he kind of sort of had a motivation almost, because he...
Well, no, he has a motivation.
Yeah.
What I'm saying is, his motivation has literally nothing to do with him being the Joker.
Yeah.
If they had called that film Penguin,
oh yeah,
it would have been just as powerful, just as strong, be just as engaging.
Oh, they could have rewritten that. I mean, that would have been a good movie. And he didn't even have to be a DC character. He could have just been Joe Schmo, crazy guy.
Well, exactly. And that's the thing. And it's not that it's sort of what we were talking about with Wolverine. Wolverine's such a popular character. Wolverine's not a popular character. Wolverine has had very popular adaptations.
Yeah, I mean,
but I don't think, like I said, I don't think the current Wolverine that's in the comics right now. Because I don't see him in a lot of books the way that we were back at the height of Wolverine mania. I see he's kind of like, oh yeah, it's Wolverine, and he's just one of those guys. He's not Spider-Man level anymore.
Well, I mean,
Wolverine used to be a Spider-Man level hero.
They did mess
where he could carry multiple books.
They did mess with it though, because
he's not.
Well, they did kill him, and then Old Man Logan was running around, and they just finally started giving him a solo book back. I mean, Wolverine 1 came out last week, so.
I know, but like I said, now it's a recycled concept. It's not what it was when it was driven by story, character, and arc.
I know, and
they've told all the stories for Wolverine.
And for any good people think, this new X-Men, Krakoa thing is doing, I think it's hurting Wolverine. I think it's hurting Wolverine's solo career. And two, I mean, I know me and Lilith were loving the Gambit and Rogue book, but they canceled that because this whole thing was coming. And that's the thing. I mean, unifying the mutant race, I think, is hurting people who had solo titles.
Well, it's definitely hurting everyone, but it's about getting them. It's about literally getting them all on an island. Mm. In fact, if you look at the 4X and you see that, about the ratio of, because there's a little infographic in here about right here, the mutants on Krakoa and the mutants off of Krakoa. And then the Omega level mutants, and it's that's all the mutants on Krakoa. That's a lot of mutants because that's 50,000.
Yeah.
So, which I don't think you could even fit that many on Krakoa. It's not supposed to be that big of an island.
I'm thinking the way they were saying, I don't know if the island can grow too because it is a living thing. And I know in one issue there was a separate, I don't know if it was a separate piece of it or another Krakoa, but it kind of merged.
Yeah. Or maybe, I don't know, maybe it's Doctor Who's TARDIS.
And two, they're not all full-time living on the island because Cyclops and his family have a house on the moon too that they get through one of those fancy
I'm not quite sure what they're working out with this, but either way, the idea of all the mutants on Krakoa, because for what it's worth, it's not I'm going to stay in the U.S. and be a mutant, and it's mutant, and they're nope, go right ahead, leave.
Well, yeah, that was the same thing in the 80s. They're oh yeah, we got, remember in the 80s, the X-Men faked their death, and they were living in the Australian outback. Well, it's well, how are you furthering, the cause of mutant kind if you're hiding in the,
Well, because now they're being a nation state of mutants.
Well, now they are, yeah.
Yeah. But it's just, at the end of the day, I agree. It's definitely hurting the mutants as a whole. I was never that big of a mutant fan, so I shouldn't be the one that should comment on that, because maybe mutant fans are no, this is best, but you're a mutant fan, and you don't seem to be that pleased with it.
I mean, there are good points to it, too, but I swear, I keep saying it, I keep getting this feeling that they're using this story as a holding pattern until they see what Disney does with the X-Men in the movies, and then they're going to magically transform them into that.
I mean, yeah, possibly. I mean, or they're going to do something very radical with that. We don't quite know where we're at right now. As we've said, there's a lot of weird continuity going on in the comics right now.
Because I told you, either everyone's going to be clones or everyone's going to get brain damage or something, but I guarantee you at some point in the next few years it's going to go back to status quo where they're fighting Magneto, they're fighting Apocalypse. Nobody's going to be they're not going to be buddy with them forever.
I mean something's going on, but it's a question. It's a question. One book I didn't talk about last on the other podcast is Avengers of the Wasteland, issue 2. It's very cool. We find out who. This is kind of sick. Got Count Nefaria there, kind of a washed up, in his suit there, and he basically gets killed by Doom in there because Doom's apparently cleaning house. He's killing all of the old villains that are still around. He's going to kill all the old villains as well as the old heroes, Mm-hmm. But we find out who that Captain America we saw at the end of last issue was. He's a guy named Grant.
Oh.
And is this true? They draw him to look a lot like John Barenthal there. Yeah. And apparently his storyline is that, so basically when Doom retook, New Latveria away from the Red Skull and basically took over the world, mm-hmm. He started trying to build his own superheroes that would be loyal to him so that he could control the world. But, he tried to, grow Fantastic Four clones, and those ended very poorly. But then he gets the last vials of Super Soldier Serum that we saw in the original Old Man Logan arc. He gets these, but he recruits these people. There's only 99 people who make the final cut. And of those, 97 of them die horribly because it's bad Super Soldier Serum. and of the two who survived, they become the lieutenants of Latveria. This right there, and Grant, realizes he doesn't want to be a stormtrooper. He doesn't want to kill these innocent people. And he, goes against the other lieutenant of Latveria. But then we see later, Grant has severe anger issues when they get stopped by some random superhumans. At first I thought they were supposed to be like, Hulk offspring, but actually no, they're just random super hillbillies. And Grant tries to chop the head off of the big guy. So yeah, and then Danny Thor has to stop him. Yeah, so I think he's got those anger issues that are indicative of a William Burnside kind of thing. So it's interesting what we're going to see happen with these Avengers of the Wasteland. I'm looking forward to it. I'm excited about it. Next month they fight Baron Blood and his dwindling vampire hordes because they've had to drink the blood of corpses lately, which is never good. Okay, anything else you want to talk about tonight, Philip?
Did you say you read Falcon and Winter Soldier?
Oh, yes, I did read Falcon and Winter Soldier. I like the Natural. He seems like a fun character.
I know. Is he supposed to be a teenager, or is that just the art?
I get the feeling he's maybe supposed to be very 18, 19 kind of teenager.
Okay. Yeah.
I get the feeling he's supposed to be fully a recruitable adult into the military, but at his peak. He's at his peak. He's basically Michael Van Patrick,
Mm-hmm.
He's, natural super soldier kind of character and just really, really BA as a fighter because he basically just, beats the heck out of Falcon and Winter Soldier, which is kind of embarrassing. But, I enjoyed it. It was interesting. We've got our Sharon Carter stand-in here with the blonde Mackenzie.
Oh yeah.
The drunk Mackenzie was hungover. That's why she didn't go to work that day. Oh boy. And it's definitely a great start.
Mm-hmm.
And you see that the Natural says, "Okay, I'm not going to kill you, but you follow me to Hydra, and then I'll kill you." Who he kind of reminds me of is kind of the Daredevil TV series version of Bullseye.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, so it's interesting. But I liked him. I liked that plotline. I like the organization that looks for terrorist cells with terrorist camps within the United States, and then they all just get murdered.
Oh, yeah.
By, one of the two Hydra factions we were talking about. Now that Zemo is dead.
Yeah, because that'll last.
Yeah, that'll last.
Especially if we get a Thunderbolts movie. Oh, no, Zemo's coming back in Falcon and Winter Soldier TV series.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, he's coming back. And, we may get our Thunderbolts there. But we'll have to see that when it comes out next. Okay, I think that's a lot to talk about this night, Phil. Okay. I'm getting tired.
I was going to say, Charlie,
yeah, I like to keep Superconnectivity to around a half hour. We often don't, but I like to. That's actually my goal. Is I want to do my shows in 30 minutes segment because I find that's a good listening length.
I was going to say, I see your full stream ahead, so I know.
Yeah, well, I try to, man. I mean, it doesn't always happen, but I try to. Okay, Philip. How can people find you if they would like to talk to you about stuff?
If you want to get a hold of me, you can always get a hold of me, nightwingpdp@gmail.com. On Twitter, I am at nightwingpdp. Follow Capes and Lunatics and Superconnectivity on Facebook, on Twitter. You can find all of that in one convenient place. Linktree, linktr.ee/Capes and Lunatics. Call our voicemail, 614-382-2737. That's 614-38-CAPES. We can play your thoughts right here, right on the air. And, just remember to support Southgate Media Group sponsors, Tweaked Audio, Hunt Killer, Pod Life the book. Go buy it on Amazon and use the Southgate Media Group link right in the show notes.
Right in the show notes. Alrighty then. And of course, if you'd like to write to me in that old-fashioned email way, the way our Maz and Paz once did, do so at superconnectivityblog@gmail.com. That's superconnectivityblog, all one word as it turns out, at gmail.com. And of course, follow me on the Twitter as I live tweet things when I feel like it, when there's something on that I feel like tweeting about. At Charlie Esser, that's CharlieEsser. Look for the 2 E's right there in the middle. For what? Bing. Thank you, Maz. Alrighty then. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen, for joining us for Super Connectivity once again. Why don't y'all come back next week and super connect with us again? Good night.
Good night.
And that's the story.
The story.
And now we do the dance, and then we go to bed. I'm tired. I mean, and you got work in the morning, man. Yeah. Phil's a hard-working man.
Wow.
Podcast by day, or podcast by night, or works by day.
Podcast Avenger.
Podcast by night.